Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the second shelf. See the happy face? That's the happy face because I bought book face. So this is going to be a book haul. Yeah. And the first book, I have to reach over here. The first book I bought, or the first three books actually I bought, are for that project that I started at the beginning of the year, where I read two books for each year of a decade. I'm uploaded a video last Sunday, so maybe you watched this, but I had to buy three books for the years 2013, 2014, and the first is the non-fiction pick for 2013, and that it's Temple Grandin, The Autistic Brain. Temple Grandin is autistic herself. She was born in 1947 and she was diagnosed with autism when she was about 5 years old. She went on to get a higher education. She has a PhD, first a master's and then a PhD in animal science, and she works with livestock animal welfare as a consultant, but she's also you probably, if you know her, you will probably know her as an autistic spokesperson, for autism. This is her most recent book, I would say, about autism, in which she explores the autistic brain. I read a previous book by her published, I think, in the mid-1980s, a memoir about her diagnosis and her way out of the idea that she will probably be institutionalized or die when she was diagnosed in the 1950s. And I was interested in a more recent work, and something about the brain always interests me. So, Temple Grandin, Autistic Brain, published obviously in 2013. And the next book, Reaching Again to the Pile, is also a non-fiction book, and that's my pick for the decade read 2014, and that is Elizabeth Kolbert, The Sixth, difficult word, sixth, sort of makes me, anyway. The Sixth Extinction. And this is about the new extinction event happening at the moment. Basically it's a science book, or science for non-scientists, because I'm obviously not a scientist, about the impact of human beings on the planet and the life on our planet. I heard a lot of good things about this one, and I've been meaning to read it for a long time. So I'm happy that I restarted my decade project and finally have a good reason and an incentive not only to buy this book, but hopefully to read it as well. And the third one, Reaching Again for the decade project, is the fiction pick for 2014, and that is Kintu. And now I don't want to botch the name, Jennifer Nansubuga Makumbi. It's a book about a Ugandan person. I wanted to say prince, but I think that's the wrong word, by the name of Kintu, and his life and his impact on Ugandan history. So it's sort of historical fiction with some, I was about to say magical realism, but that's not the right word, with some historical lore woven into it. And I will be reading that for my own project, for the Decade Project, but also in July there is a read-along for this book, the summer read-along hosted by Didi from Brown Girl Reading, and we will read the book over the course of the whole month of July. So in the first week, I think it's the first 70 or 80 pages, and I'm behind, as you can see, but I will catch up, I'm sure. And the next book I bought is also for 2020 reading project, which I called Author Spotlight, and my author in the spotlight is Louise Erdrich, and I bought The Last Report on the Miracles at Little No Horse, published in 2001. And it's the July, so the 7th book that I'm reading, because I read all of Louise Erdrich's novel in chronological publication order. And this is, I think, the 5th book in her Love Medicine series, in which you encounter the same families and people, but with different focus. And I'm doing this project, if you're following me, you already know, I'm reading Erdrich's work together with Terry from Miss Terry B. So in July, and I think we will start on the 19th. So in the second half of July, we will be reading this one. The Last Report on the Miracles at Little No Horse. I have to look at the book in order to get that title right. Anyway, and then I have 2 books, and I'm reaching again. I mean, I don't know why I put the stack over here so that I have to reach. I could have put it over here. That's just me. So the next 2 books were actually gifts from Annette, who runs a bookstore in Australia, the Ravens Parlour Bookstore. I will leave a link to the bookstore down below. If you live in Australia, in the area, South Australia, you might want to check it out. But I talked in one of my videos, I talked about the fact that I have often difficulties to get Australian books, literature, whether it's fiction or non-fiction. They are often not available to me, not even in ebook form outside. Obviously, I live outside of Australia, so I try Amazon US, I try Amazon UK, and often without any success. And Annette, she watched that video and she offered very kindly to send me 2 books. So I picked, the first one I picked is a non-fiction book, a memoir by Fiona Wright, Small Acts of Disappearance. And I came across this book on the website of the Stella Prize, the book prize, the Australian Book Prize, fiction and non-fiction for the year 2016, because this was published in 2015 and it was on the shortlist. But I couldn't get it anywhere. So thank you very much, Annette, for sending it to me all the way from Australia to Germany. Fiona Wright is an Australian poet. And this is her memoir in essay form about her eating disorder. So it's essays on hunger. And I was really interested. It sounded fascinating. And I couldn't get it, and now I have it. How cool is that? And the second book she sent me is fiction, a new release, Pip Williams' the Dictionary of Lost Words, which was published in Australia earlier this year, I think in May or June. And I featured this book in one of my to be released videos because I thought it sounded fascinating, and then I couldn't get it. Pip Williams was born in London, but moved to Australia, where she now lives. She wrote another non-fiction book about travel, and this one I think is her first fiction release, and it's about dictionaries. I mean, you don't have to say much more to me than that. I love books about words and dictionaries. And this is a historical fiction, a mixture of real events with fictionalized characters. So it is about the making of the Oxford English Dictionary, which started in the 1880s. And then, it was, I think it was 12 volumes, and the last one was published in 1928. So that real event is the historical context. And then you have fictionalized characters. Our main character is Esme, and when the book opens, she is just 6 years old, and her father works as one of the lexicographers for the dictionary, and she gets interested in words and why some words are included in the dictionaries and others are not. So you learn something about how a dictionary is made, that you have to pick the word and then you have to explain it and use quotes. And Esme starts to collect her own words that are not considered important enough to make it into the dictionary. Words of the street, words that are only featured in spoken language, and especially words that are connected with females, with the life of women, because the dictionary, of course, was made by men mostly. I thought that sounded fascinating, so I am so grateful, Annette, that you sent me this and the nonfiction book. I can't thank you enough. And the last book I bought is for an upcoming buddy read with Mel from Mel's Bookland Adventures. So it's again, sorry Brian, a German book that has not been translated yet because it was just published in March, and that is Christine Koschmieder, Trümmerfrauen. Now, the title Trümmerfrauen, that is a very German word, and it's used normally for women after World War II who would go through the rubble, Trümmer, or the debris of the bombings and clear up the city. So that's really a word that evokes all kinds of associations with the Second World War. But this book is, at least it was Mel's suggestion, so I don't know that much about it, but it is set in present day, and we have a couple of main characters, two women who go on a journey to celebrate Thanksgiving, a younger man who is in an airplane on the way from the US to Germany, and then you have Carola who lives in Leipzig, and it sounds quite absurd. So I had never heard of this book before. I was familiar, sort of, in the back of my head with the writer, but I hadn't read her before. So I'm looking forward to this buddy read with Mel of this sort of absurd story through the history of Germany. Of course, we're reading this for our ongoing project, another ongoing reading project for 2020, Read German Books, in which we encourage ourselves and others to read books originally written in German. So you can read it in a translation, but it has to be published originally in German. And this one hasn't been translated. I'm going to say it again. So I'm sorry about that. Anyway, so these were the books, the most recent buys for my July reading. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you're all safe and healthy. I'm very much looking forward to talking to you in the comments, and I'll see you all soon in the next one.